Hi guys, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to show you a pivot table on what we're going to be using for the introduction to information systems, and it's going to be with the Australian Data Science Jobs dataset. So what I'm going to start off with is by just going through what we've got to do for the assignment. So there's two parts. The first part's right here where we've got to choose a business and answer these questions. So which business we've chosen, what's its main activities, what's the overall benefit of information systems, and we have to choose one of the tools in week 4 and another one in week 8, and just provide examples of how the business can use it to benefit them, mostly operational, ad spend, marketing, getting more insights, and possibly using another business that's using those technologies or tools already. So that's the first part. Um, but the main part that I want to go through today is the pivot tables. And let me just get this up. So what we've got to do here in part 2 is we've got to create a report for the executive committee of why we should be using data science and how it's going to benefit the business environment. So they want us to have a look at what other companies are doing and decide which programming and software skills they're using and is most beneficial. And that's where we've got our data set. So if we have a look here, we could see it's got quite a bit of information. There's 2087 rows, but if you minus the header, there's 2086, right? So let's just start off by creating the pivot table. Over here, you can see the triangle on the top left corner. If you click that, it actually selects everything. Then we go to insert, then go to pivot table and click from table or range. It'll have the pop up, just say yes, then it will have a new sheet. And on the new sheet, you could see the columns that we were seeing before on the right hand side now. And we can choose these columns as fields. So if we go back here, what it's asking us to do is assigning these fields to the 4 areas of the pivot table. So that's including the filter, the column, the row, and values. So what we want to do is actually having a look at the programming and software skills that we've got. There's 28 of them, and we just want to include it in the pivot table. Let's start by doing that. So I'm just going to click on each of these. And yeah, here we've got Z being 26, 27, 28. So we've got 28 columns, but at the moment it's a bit hard to see it. It's not really readable because we've got to scroll all the way to the right to see everything. So what I like to do is just flip it around, put it onto rows, and you can see it over here. It's a lot more readable. So instead of having to like scroll all the way to the right and find the one that you want, you've got everything nice and neat over here. So that's what we've got for the programming languages and the software skills. You could say over here as well that like not all of these are programming languages. You have Python, R for like data science and statistics. You've got SQL, but if you have a look, Excel isn't really it's not really a programming language. It's more like a tool. And like mathematics and statistics, they're not really programming languages. Same with Tableau and Power BI. So now what we've got to do is get some more information on like the company. So they're saying that the job title, company sector, company industry can also help. I'm going to be doing a company in the finance sector, but for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a broad and general pivot table. So we've got the company fields here. We've got company size, which is how many people work in the company. We've got the company type, whether it's like a public, private, franchise, government type of company. You've got the sector, company founded, the date that it was made, and you've got company revenue and company industry. What I want to say is that with company sector, it's related to industry. Um, I'll just quickly show how they're related. So I've got sector in my filters area, and I've got industry in my columns. And you could see a bit, there's quite a bit of columns for the industry. But what you can do is you can filter it. You can you can tick this, and you can have like multiple sectors that you choose. But just for my particular example for finance right now, I'm just gonna untick it, then double click on finance. And you can see that finance actually have these I guess you can call it subcategories where it's broken down into like accounting and tax, banking and lending, financial transaction processing, investment and asset management. Then you've just got the grand total on the last column. So we've got that. Um, I'm just going to take that, leave it as all. And what I'm going to do is since we've got like 62 over here, it's like more like 61 um, company industries, and we've got 28. I'm just going to flip them around just for visibility, like and readability. So we've got this. So it's created more of a nicer looking table. So we've got that. And now let's have a look. We've got we've got all these fields. So we've got a filter, we've got the columns, we've got the rows, we've got the values. We're just going to explain this in the report. Maybe you can have subheadings and just quickly explain why you chose that particular field for that particular area. Should be relatively easy. And for the function, what I'm mainly going to be using is the sum. I'm not really going to be using the average, min, not going to use that, max, I'm not going to use that. Count, I might actually use count, and I'll go through an example of why it may be useful. Product, not really. Like what they're asking for is not really going to need any like multiplication. So just going back to the data, like at the start of the video, I did mention that there was 2086 for the count, right? And if we have a look here, there's 2087 and you minus one, so it's 2086. So all of the rows, which are job descriptions, they've been asked this question, whether they use Python or not. And you could see that with the others as well. Like if we just have a quick look, like for R 2086, 2086, and if we just do a random one over here, 2086. The only thing that's changing with these values, it's the sum. And the reason why that is the way that these questions have been asked. The way that they've been asked is it's in a checklist. So I'll just quickly show you something. So if we do a 0, replace it to no, replace all. So we've got like 53,611 replacements that's been made. Then if we find 1 and put a yes there, then replace all. This is how it actually gets asked. Well, this is what the actual outputs look like if we were to do it in a qualitative manner. So, like this particular job, they only said yes to mathematics. So let's just undo the changes, and I'm just gonna quickly open up another sheet. And hypothetically, let's say the question was, so you've got that question, then you've got user 1 called respondent 1. Then we can do something like this. Just, just paste everything just to make it a bit easier. So it's pretty much like a checkbox. The respondent gets asked these questions, select the ones that you use, and by default, if they leave it blank, the value is a 0. So if you have a look here, these have all been left as blank. That's why it's a 0. But if you have a look at the count, it's 28. All of them are 28. But as soon as we start answering the question, like let's say we put an X there, put an X here, put an X here, and another X here. We've got the count as 6 because we're doing it for each of the 6 respondents. But the actual sum that's going to be on that data set, it's going to be a 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. So the sum would be 4. And it's going to be 4 out of 6 of the respondents that use the first programming languages. So that's just a little bit of a background why they're using zeros and ones instead of yes, no's. That's because the way that it gets asked in the question, they literally have a checkbox and any values that's been left as blank becomes a zero. So we've got that. And in terms of the justification, what you can do is you can kind of explain that in this section. You're going to be using sum instead of count, because if you use count, then it's going to be 2086 for each of the programming languages, which isn't a proper representation of its popularity. So now that we've started thinking about like popularity and like the percentage of users for that particular programming language, what we can do is we can create another row. We can call it percentage. We'll just leave it as percentage for now. And we can we can do a sum. I think we can use this. With these dollar signs, it means it's fixed. So we might not be able to do that. Um, I'll do a different formula. So we'll just do a simple formula. We do a sum equals sum brackets. Then we can go from B4, scroll all the way down to B63, close the bracket, then it'll do the calculation. It should end up being 767, and there it is, 767. So that's the sum. Then with the sum, what we want to do is we want to divide that by the count. So as I said before, the count was 2086 respondents. So now we've got this um, this value here, and if we drag it across, it'll populate. Okay, what we want to do with this one is we want to format it into a percentage, and we'll just leave it to the two up to two decimal places. So we've got that. Um, so that's useful because we could actually see which one's the most popular programming languages. It looks like it's Python, SQL, and R. They make quite a bit of a chunk of users or respondents. What I want to do as well is just to make things a little bit more easier for me. I'm not sure if it's easier for other people, but I'm gonna do conditional formatting, and I'm I'm gonna do greater than. So anything greater than 0, no, yep, 0. We're gonna fill that with green. So there's a much more, I guess it's a lot easier to see which ones are being used because there's the contrast. And I'm just gonna do another. I'll do another color for the ones that's in 0 equal to 0. Make it red. So yeah, this is how it looks like. That's that's what I'm gonna be putting in for my justification. Like That's one of the things I'll be like mentioning. And another thing that you can add is this. You can do it, you can sort it. So what we want to do is we want to sort from largest to smallest, and it'll put everything to the left. The largest would be closer to the left. And we could see that it's been shifted a bit, and there's a bit of a hierarchy now. So as you open up the pivot table, all the information that you see right in front of you, most of it would be the most valuable information. And as you go to the right, it becomes less valuable. So that way, it's really easy to take in the information, you get the insights. But another problem that I've got is I want to display this percentage. If I scroll up, I still want to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the screen. So I'm going to split it. That way, if I go up, scroll down, you see the visibility of like the percentage and the grand total. That's what I've got at the moment. But if there's any questions, just give me a message. Thanks for listening.